found the property with some adventures. So I'm sitting in a vacant lot and my machine is behind this fence. I don't know if you can see in the distance that boom, white boom sticking out into the sky. It doesn't look too big, but then I went to look at it and the tracks are super wide, because they told me it was 8 feet wide, and the guy said, well, okay, let's maybe order the permits for 9 feet wide. And I go there and it looks like they're spread out, but right away I noticed that the undercarriage, I see tracks, like, you know, traces of stuff moving. So basically I'm pretty sure that this one of those machines where they can tuck the tracks in, you know, make it more narrow. But I just talked to the broker about this. Well, they wanted me to deliver Monday, right? And I ordered all the permits. I ordered the, I'm just having a quick breakfast here. So one scoop is only 135 calories, but it has 25 grams of protein. So pretty much pure protein. And so yeah, then they emailed me. They said the machine is not going to be ready until 11:30 in the morning, and today is Friday. And you know, the way I'm going is I'm near Wilmington, Delaware. Basically this is Newcastle, Delaware. And if you go north into Pennsylvania, it's all small roads. And I went there with one of these loads before, and like similar loads, right, something big, and it's a nightmare to go through there. So I talked to the permit company. You see, this is just water and this thing. And the trick is you have to put water first, otherwise it doesn't want to mix. And so instead of going north into Pennsylvania, we're going southwest into Maryland. Of course, that means another permit, but it's much faster, and because it's all freeway. Like I jump on the freeway here, 495, and then 95 in Delaware. It's only 15 miles in Delaware, and then it's Maryland. Just go towards Baltimore on 95, then grab 695 north, and then take 83, and then just follow my typical route, the one I take when I'm loading in the port, you know, in Baltimore. Just 83 north towards Harrisburg, you know, 11, you know, all that good stuff towards Buffalo, right? And what's funny is that this property has no signs whatsoever. It's like a huge complex of places, but on the road there's no signs. And I'm coming slowly, and it's a very narrow road, and my GPS says turn right, and I look at the right, it says truck driving school. Okay, I don't see any place with the name of this company. And so I follow this road because it looks to get wider, and there's a stop sign, and all of a sudden I'm inside a FedEx facility. And there's nowhere to go. There's a gate. That's it. And I see there's a huge, you know, FedEx yard inside where they shunt trailers, but there's signs, you know, no unauthorized persons, only employees of FedEx. Basically you will be shot, you know, like you will be prosecuted, you know, private property, stuff like that. So, and of course there's a gate, and it says outside carriers or visitors call this number. Like, they don't allow you to use the speakerphone, you have to actually call. So I went, grabbed my phone, called the number, and it's like 7:10 in the morning, and I see people working in the yard, people are shunting trailers. But I called the number, and it says, and the automatic recording says, we're sorry, nobody's available to pick up to answer, you know, your call. Please leave a message. I said, hey, I'm near the gate. What's cooking? Can you please give me a call? I'm just trying to turn around. You know, need a favor. Need you guys to open the gate so I can go in. And nobody's calling me back, you know. And then I see a lady walking inside with a clipboard. I'm like, miss! And she was like, you know, 10 meters away, 30 feet. I said, miss, is it possible to come in and turn around? She didn't even ask me. I guess they're getting this all the time because, you know, there's no signs. Like, there's no sign that says, you know, dead end or stuff like that. Just the road looks normal and then it starts turning and you end up at the gate to FedEx, where it's a private property. So anyway, they allowed me to go in, and it was very narrow, so I lifted my rear axle. I was basically driving into axles, and it's all one-way traffic, so I had to go do a big loop around the building, then come out of the same gate. And I called the guy. They gave me a contact here. And when I was booking this load, the broker says, you're picking up a brand new machine at the dealer. Does this look like a dealer? Does this look like a dealer lot? So basically, you see these two sheds, right? So the shed closer to me is some kind of a construction guy's TCR, but the next shed, which is totally dead, is this Mait, which looks like an Italian company. Mait USA, so they open like a representative office here in the States, and they try to sell their drill rigs. And so they have one drill rig, and they needed some part for it, and the guy says, the broker says, the part didn't come in until 3 o'clock yesterday, and so that's why it's not ready. But the good news is that, you know, like, what do you do when the guy says it's not gonna be ready until 11:30, but he says, don't worry, we'll pay you detention? And I'm thinking, I'm a smart cookie, so I know that if I show up there at 11, they're not gonna pay me anything, you know, because originally the agreement was to load first thing in the morning and drive like crazy, deliver Monday, must deliver Monday. And I was skeptical, you know, like, even if I loaded, like, I already ordered, I have Delaware permit, I have Maryland permit, and I'm still waiting for PA in New York. But I had to order them without looking at the machine, and the guy says, don't worry, we'll reimburse you. If something is wrong and you have to order permits again, we'll reimburse you. Like, they, on the phone, they sound pretty good, you know. And so he says, yeah, we'll pay you detention. And so, trying to be smart about this, I shut down, like 70 miles away at this Allentown rest area on 476. Managed to get out of there. There was like 500 trucks in there, parked all over the place, and I'm like 80 feet long, you know. And I got up I set my alarm for 5:15. 5:15. Starbucks inside is open 24/7. Beautiful. I went in, I got my coffee, first coffee of the day, and then I drove here, and I was here at 7:10. Well, at 7 I was at the FedEx. Then I turned around and I was here like at 7:15, and right away I sent a message to the guy, said, arrived at shipper. You know, basically the clock starts. I don't care. And so, see, that's how you keep them in the loop. And I went in, I took pictures. Here's some of these blockbusters. And I tell the guy, hey, you said that the machine will be washed. And he says, well, I was told it's a brand new machine, super clean. And I said, yeah, it's a brand new machine, what looks like a brand new machine, but it sits in the mud, in the dirt. And then, of course, there's dirt all over the place. Like, it's not like here where I am. The front part, you see, it's all pavement, right? but over there it's dirt, and so the machine sits over there. It's much worse than here. So anyway, so the mechanic is supposed to come over to install that part, and I need to ask him, make sure that he tucks the tracks in, makes it maximum 9 feet wide, because that's all my permits are for. And then they told me it's gonna be 12 feet 3 inches tall, so I figured on my trail it's gonna be over 14, so I ordered the permit like that for Maryland. And Maryland wants one pilot car, and you know, it's not that easy to find a pilot car. You know, usually it's for the next day, right? Like, you try to find somebody for the next day because everybody's busy. And so I found the guy. I said, yeah, meet me, I'm gonna load at 7 in the morning, meet me at the border with Maryland at 10 o'clock. And then the broker tells me the machine is gonna be ready until 11:30. So I called the guy. I said, I'm sorry, but the loading was postponed. They said we should now do 2 or 2:30. Are you gonna charge me anything for this, for the waiting? The guy says no. Okay, but now I'm not even sure that they're gonna load. I don't know. Now, no wonder the shipping was delayed. You know that part they were talking about, the part that came late? Turns out it's this thing over here. And so now we have a crane guy, and that's the Italian mechanic, and they're gonna install this. So that part of the boom, you know, for some reason they had to replace it or something. And imagine installing the boom. There's one crane guy, there's one mechanic. I don't think I'll be out of here by 11:30, because that's a lot of work. I saw him unpacking bolts. They're like the size of my hand. There's like 20 bolts that he has to. Anyway, it's one of those cases where people have no idea that the truck is coming, you know, and they're always surprised. Oh, you're already there. Well, yeah, I got up at 5 o'clock and I was driving like a maniac to be here because they told me to load first thing in the morning. Oh, well, nobody told us. So basically, and the guy, the mechanic says, what kind of trailer you have? Is it a tow trailer or a low trailer? I said, well, come to the fence so you can see my truck. And he came over and he said, oh, that's perfect. I guess he was thinking about a step deck trailer, and he says those are dangerous, but you cannot load this on a step deck trailer. And so what it is so far is I attach my signs and I drop my axle. Like my axle 3 was up, so I used the brick I found over there, put it under the tire, drove on, and then drained the air from the suspension, took the chain out from the axle. Of course, I'm really missing the days when I had airlift, sorry, too much sun over there. It was so much easier, you know, you push the button, right? It was kind of like the same deal as here, right? The same thing. As soon as you pull it, the axle would go up, right? But because it's all modular, look at what happens. If I pull it, this whole thing goes down, so there's no airlift here. So you gotta use these chains, and you cannot just hook them up, because otherwise when you lift it, the tire will be half an inch off the ground and you're gonna damage it. But yeah, it was very difficult actually navigating through these small streets, you know, with such a long rig. Plus now I have that, you know, flip box, which does not help. Oh, by the way, so I forgot to mention that the why I was down for 4 days because of this. So this thing developed a leak in here. Oh, I hope it's not leaking again, but they fixed it. They took this tank and they fixed it, but there was 2 small leaks right in the weld, and you can see it's still oil here. You know, it was leaking pretty bad. And so I took the truck to the shop that installed this PTO when the truck was brand new, and they said they don't fix it themselves. They just took the tank off and they ship it to a company they use, like a, you know, third-party contractor, and then those guys fixed it. They sent it back, and these guys just reinstalled it, hooked up back all the hoses. But it's a big job. But so far I have no idea what I owe them, because as always these guys are they're always behind with the paperwork. You know, I went there to pick up the truck Thursday morning, and I said, you have the invoice? And the guy at the counter says, not yet. I said, okay, here's my credit card, just call me or let me know if you want to use it, or I said I'll be back, you know, Monday, Tuesday. And then another piece of news that happened is finally that situation with the Ohio overweight ticket has been resolved. Basically, the original fine was $2,300 that the cop wanted me to pay. I said no. I hired a lawyer from Ohio. I paid him a $300 retainer, all funds US, and they were at it with the prosecutor since what, March? And finally they say, okay, right now we have a kind of like an offer from the prosecutor at a flat $1,000 fine, or the lawyer says we can find an expert that can testify, because he says I don't think the scale guy did the scaling properly. So he says we can find an expert which can help us see if maybe there was something done improperly, so then the whole thing will be thrown out. And I said, wait, how much will the expert cost? And he says, well, it depends, can be a few $100, can be $1,000, you know. And I said, you know what, I said at this point I'm happy with $1,000, because that's so $2,300, and I paid $300 to the lawyer, and I'm gonna send a check to the court for $1,000. That's $1,300, so $1,000 less, right? I think that's fair. So that's what I'm doing. When I'm back, they already sent me the kind of like a letter, like a decision of the prosecutor, so I just need to write a check and mail it to this court. And then it's time. I'm still working on IFTA for the what is it, third quarter or second quarter? January, February, March, April. Yeah, second quarter. Gotta do that one before the end of this month, and then I gotta do New York fuel tax and Kentucky, but those don't take too long. But basically I need like a couple of days to finish all the paperwork, but luckily I can do it when I'm down. Like for example, now I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hit the curfew in New York State with this machine, because I'm telling you, this is gonna be I really doubted that they will finish by lunchtime. So installing a separate boom and they call the truck, and they want the truck to deliver this Monday in Canada. Don't get me started. Well, the crane is still there and it's hooked up to another piece of metal. keep installing the parts, you know. I drank almost all my water. I have 2.5 bottles left. I had to change my t-shirt, and if you can hear, I'm finally running the engine. It's just impossible to sit in the truck, even with all doors open, all the side windows open, you know, like I can open this. See where it says emergency exit, right? This whole thing opens, and with a fan, you're just dying, you know. You feel like a fish thrown on the sand. But the surprising and the final piece of info that you guys missed is that, you know, it was 12 o'clock and the guy was still working, right? And my pilot car, poor guy, is sitting at the truck stop at Maryland line, Maryland and Delaware, and we agreed on 2 o'clock, but the guy's still working. I'm not loaded, so I know I need at least like hour and a half to get loaded, you know, like to secure everything, right? Then double check, triple check, and then it's only 15 miles to the Maryland line, but still it was getting tight, you know. I definitely want to give myself more time, and so I called the guy. I said, I think we need to postpone again. I said, I'm sorry, this is the second time I'm doing it to the guy, but I said, basically bad stuff, you know, flows downstream. It's so they give it to me, I give it to you. I said, I hate to do it to you, but I was sitting here since, you know, I got up at 5 o'clock, right? And I was here at 7:15. But anyway, so I go and the guy says, so when do you think they'll be ready? So I went and talked to that mechanic, and it's one of those cases, you know, when somebody speaks English and the accent is okay, the pronunciation is okay, but you're not communicating, you know, like the guy does not understand the actual, you know, daily phrases of the English language. I ran into this when dealing with customer service for Bell, Rogers, you know, they for my cell phone company, they outsource everything to people in, you know, China, Philippines, right? And they find people that speak, you know, the accent is very nice, but their ability to comprehend the spoken word is very limited. So it's like, I never saw this before until they started using people in Asia, you know, like the accent is nice, but very poor comprehension, you know. And so this guy, I said, okay, so you're not gonna be ready at 11:30? The guy says 11:30, and he saw me sitting here, right? So I'm sitting here, and he says 11:30. From what I'm told, we're not loading today. I said, wait a second, I talked to you 10 times before when you were installing this, and I told you that I have a pilot car sitting waiting at a truck stop. And the guy says, with a perfect accent, he says, I don't know, but they told me we're loading tomorrow. I said, what time tomorrow? I'm not sure, we're missing some bolts. So anyway, that's what's happening. So I emailed the broker. I said, this is unacceptable. Why did you guys bother to, you know, to rush me down here from Canada empty, because nothing is ready? So they gave me some money, some nice detention pay. So actually I'm lying like this, I'm sitting like this, and I'm making money, which is good, because yeah, you know, like you order a truck when your load is not ready, right? And you can see the crane, right? You can see the crane still hooked. They're moving something unbelievable. Anyway, so I called the pilot guy again, right? And I said, I'm sorry if you have to charge me any penalties, I understand, because I said I didn't have the proper information. It's all big mess. And turns out the guy was a trucker before. He was doing oversized, you know, heavy loads. And so he says, okay, he's still sitting at the truck stop over there, because he lives about 2.5 hours away at the top of Maryland. And I said, you have anything for tomorrow? He says no. So he's willing to wait. And so the poor guy, sounds like he's retired, you know. So he's sitting there at the truck stop in his car or something. And we agreed to touch base at the end of today, because maybe by that time this Italian mechanic with a perfect accent, maybe he'll have a better idea of how much time he needs tomorrow, you know. Because yeah, I need the escort for Maryland, right? And then of course Maryland, so I have to go 15 miles in Delaware, and then about 45 miles down I-95 to Baltimore, and then it's 20 miles on the bypass, and then 45 miles up I-83, and that's it. The Maryland is done, and I already have my PA permit. So PA, no problem driving on Saturday, but it's 200 miles to the New York line, Lawrenceville, PA, which is New York border. I cannot enter New York after 12 o'clock Saturday. So if they load me tomorrow, basically, and the pilot guy, you know, is still waiting for me, then we can get out of Delaware, we can cross, you know, Baltimore, and I can shut down in Lawrenceville. There's a small truck stop right there on the border with New York, and then I have to sit there and wait till Monday, because New York has a curfew. What a mess. Anyway, sorry for the long and confusing video. I thought I would be loading. I wanted to show you guys the loading, how this machine drives on, because there's some interesting moments, some interesting things about this machine, how he can play with the height. I was talking to him, you know, how you can reduce the overall height, and he was telling me that he can lose like 2 feet. I think now the top is about 14 sitting on the ground, but he says, oh yeah, I can lose about 2-3 feet. So it's going to be interesting. So we're going to film tomorrow. We keep filming tomorrow. The world needs to know about this. Ciao.